Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, it is a Football Friday edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, and that means it is time to dive into a comprehensive game preview. The Tennessee Titans take on the Arizona Cardinals to open the NFL schedule at home on Sunday. I am telling you everything you need to know before that game kicks off. I'm going to go over my big picture items, look at the Titans on offense and defense, and tell you what the key will be on both sides of the ball for the Titans to come out victorious. Then we are going to zoom in and take a look at the individual matchups that will determine the outcome of this game. Finally, we are going to cap off today's show, taking a look at some of the extra items on the plate. Look at the gambling aspect of this game and keeping it plus 100. Then we are going to look at the fantasy side of this game and my beautiful dark twisted fantasy. And I will wrap things up looking at what the Titans AFC South division rivals have on their plate this weekend. So, like I said, a comprehensive game preview on this Football Friday edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is here, ladies and gentlemen. The Tennessee Titans season has arrived. I'm so hyped to dive into this game preview with you guys. Before we do, gotta remind you, I'm going to be putting out daily, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year long here on the Locked On Titans podcast and on the Locked On Titans YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to the Locked On Titans YouTube channel and smash that notification bell so you know when my episodes go live. Do got to tell you guys, I'm going to be here for an entire breakdown, an entire recap of Sunday's game on Sunday night, so make sure you don't miss that as well. Also, check me out on social media, on Twitter, at TicTacTitans. Very excited to break down some film with you guys throughout the season. Also, follow the show page on Facebook at Locked On Titans Pod. And if you're enjoying the content that I'm putting up here, go leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. It would be greatly appreciated. But let's dive into this game preview. I got a lot of great stuff to give to you guys on a team level, on an individual level. Number one, let's talk about the Tennessee Titans on offense. And my key theme for the Titans here is be yourself. Or for my Aladdin fans out there, be yourself. The Titans need to follow their core philosophies on offense. And that may be a given to some of you, but with Todd Downing taking over as the offensive coordinator and with Julio Jones added to the mix, I could see how it would be tempting to maybe throw a little bit more. When Todd Downing was the offensive coordinator for the Oakland Raiders in 2017, the Raiders had the third fewest rushing attempts in the league that year. So Todd Downing definitely has a propensity to lean towards the pass, but the Titans cannot do that for a multitude of reasons. Number one, the Arizona Cardinals pass rush. Last year, the Cardinals had 48 sacks as a team. That was fourth best in the NFL. And it's not just their front four. The Cardinals love to blitz. They blitzed 39.4% of the time on defense last year. That was top 5 in the league as well. So the Cardinals will rely heavily on their pass rush, especially with their secondary being in shambles right now. And the Titans cannot get themselves in third and long situations or get behind in the game where they can allow the Cardinals pass rush to pin their ears back and do what they do best. Also, one big weakness for the Cardinals on defense is their ability to tackle after the catch. Last year, the Cardinals defense allowed 2,060 yards after catch. That was the 7th worst number in the NFL. So you got to get the ball out quickly if you're the Titans. Force the Cardinals secondary to make tackles. Also, make sure that you're staying with the run no matter what. Make sure you're ahead of the chains. Also, do got to mention that the Cardinals gave up 125.5 rushing yards per game last year. That's 11th worst in the NFL in 2020. So they're not great against the run. They're not great against yards after the catch. Well, that's what the Titans offense is best at. So be yourself and don't put yourself in a situation where the Cardinals pass rush can do what they do best. So be yourself on offense, Titans. On defense, the Titans have to find a way to stop the run. And that's not just the running backs, that's Kyler Murray's legs as well. One big stat that stuck out to me, and it's something that Bo Brock from Locked On Cardinals said on yesterday's crossover episode. The Arizona Cardinals are 10-2 when they rush for over 150 yards. They were the seventh best rushing team in the NFL last year. So they are a boom or bust rushing team. Either they get a bunch of rushing yards or they don't get a lot of rushing yards. And when they don't run the ball well, it creates problems for Arizona in a couple of different ways. So, number one, if you don't run the ball well and you're behind the chains on third downs, you're going to struggle. And Arizona was only the 21st best team in the NFL last year on third downs, converting 39.6 of those third down opportunities for first downs. Now, we do know the Titans defense was the worst defense in the NFL last year on third down, giving up 51% of their third down opportunities for a first down. So that will be a big turning point in the game. But the Titans have to find a way to slow down the rushing attack, which will put Arizona in more third and long situations. And not only that, but the Titans, if they stop the run, will be able to get the Cardinals off the field quickly. Last year, Arizona was one of the worst teams in the NFL at having the ball for a long time on offense. Their average drive last year was 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes and 36 seconds to be exact. So if you get them off the field quickly, they can't get rolling in the run game. They can't make explosive plays in the run game or to DeAndre Hopkins. And like I mentioned, that 10-2 mark when they rush for over 150 yards, that really does matter here. So all of that is together. You stop the Cardinals in the run game with the running backs. You contain Kyler Murray, and the Titans defense should be well equipped to do that. They've had some of the more successful game plans in the NFL against mobile quarterbacks. You think about all their games against Lamar Jackson. You think about their game against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills last year. The Titans have had success on defense against elite mobile quarterbacks, and they're going to have a very good game plan as well. And then ultimately, if all of that is taken care of, you just can't let DeAndre Hopkins just whoop you in the game. He's one of the best players in the NFL, maybe the best wide receiver in the entire NFL. For my money, he is. So from that angle, as long as you bottle up the Arizona Cardinals run game, get them off the field quickly, stop them on third down, and don't let Hopkins get behind you. I know that sounds like a lot. It is a good offense, but I have a feeling that the Titans are as well equipped for this style of offense as any team in the league, as we have seen when they take on those elite mobile quarterback. So be yourself on offense, Titans, and on defense, make sure that you slow down the rushing attack for the Cardinals. So those are my two big key points, one on offense and one on defense. Now we are going to zoom in our lens and talk about some of the individual battles that will decide this game. Before we get into those, though, as you know, it is that time of year again. Football is kicking off, and there is no better place to bet on college or pro football than betonline.ag. They have all the updated odds, all the updated props. They have the internet's biggest $500,000 NFL mega contest and the world's largest $200,000 NFL Survivor contest, and both of those are open now at betonline.ag. And when you sign up for free at betonline.ag, make sure that you use the promo code LOCKED ON. That's one word, LOCKED ON, and that'll get you a 100% welcome bonus when you do make your first deposit. Literally free money at betonline.ag when you use that promo code LOCKED ON. Titans fans, let's continue this Football Friday game preview as the Titans take on the Arizona Cardinals at home to open up the season. We just talked about my keys for the offensive side of the ball, be yourself. My keys for the defensive side of the ball, stop the run. But now let's talk about some of the individual battles on the field that will determine whether or not those keys are followed. And we started with the offense in the first segment. So let's start on the defensive side of the ball here in our second segment. And number one, I kind of hinted at this at the end of our last conversation, but a big battle that will matter to me is Jackrabbit Jenkins against DeAndre Hopkins. Now, Jackrabbit's going to have his hands full. He's in his 30s. He's not in his prime. He's not one of the top corners in the league, but he is most certainly the best cornerback on the Titans. What I'm not doing is I'm not relying on second-year player Christian Fulton to take on DeAndre Hopkins all day long. Now, the Titans often don't do a shadow where they have a cornerback stay with a wide receiver the entire game. We saw Adoree do that with certain speed wide receivers at time in the last few years, but normally the Titans just leave their guys on either side of the field. They do that with their safeties as well. I don't think that that is the right move. If the Cardinals want to put Hopkins in the slot, then by all means, don't put Jackrabbit on him. But if Hopkins is going to be on the outside like he normally is, I definitely would like to see Jackrabbit Jenkins shadow DeAndre Hopkins, follow him back and forth, whether it be either side of the field. I think that would be a smart move for the Titans. You cannot allow your young cornerbacks. Christian Fulton is basically still a rookie with all the injuries he dealt with last year. We know that Caleb Farley is a rookie. Elijah Molden is a rookie. Chris Jackson is just awful at NFL football. And Breon Borders, while being a good depth piece, you do not want Breon Borders going up against DeAndre Hopkins at any point in time during the game. So if it were me, I would have Jackrabbit shadow DeAndre Hopkins to do best as possible at taking him out of the game plan, or at least limiting him, which is about as good as you can do for a player as talented as DeAndre Hopkins. Also, defensive coordinator Shane Bowen did say on Thursday that he would consider putting a spy on Kyler Murray, and that's something that the Titans have utilized against those mobile quarterbacks in the past. So if they do that, the player that needs to be the spy is Jayon Brown. I think Jayon Brown will have a big role in slowing down Kyler Murray. He's the only guy who has the athleticism to even try to compete with Kyler Murray's speed. Rashaan Evans isn't going to be somebody who's going to be able to do that, and I would even doubt David Long being able to do that. So you're going to need a big day from Jayon Brown, not only in pass coverage, but also in that read option, run game that Kyler Murray utilizes so well. So Jayon Brown against Kyler Murray. Also, Jeffrey Simmons against Kyler Murray. That's going to be another big battle. And this is something that I've seen some people talk about throughout the week, but want to make sure that you guys know about this interesting tidbit. Last year, Kyler Murray led the NFL in having passes batted down at the line of scrimmage, 16 of those in 2020. Kyler Murray is short. As another short king, you know, I hate saying this, but being short, being 5'10" on the roster, and nobody believes that. He's probably about 5'7", 5'8", but that height problem results in having those passes batted down. And he, like I said, 16 batted passes at the line of scrimmage in 2020. Well, you know who's really good at batting down passes for the Titans? Jeffrey Simmons. He had 5 pass deflections last year, and 2 of those turned into interceptions for the Titans. I 100% could see a batted pass turning into a turnover for the Titans. And if the Titans get a turnover in this game, with both offenses being really good offenses, we should see a lot of scoring in this game. If the Titans can find a way to get a turnover and give their offense a short field and prevent the Cardinals offense from getting a scoring opportunity, that would just be monstrous for the victory. So Jackrabbit Jenkins against DeAndre Hopkins, Jayon Brown as a spy against Kyler Murray, and then Jeffrey Simmons batting down passes at the line of scrimmage for turnover opportunities against Kyler Murray as well. Those are the 3 big matchups that I am looking for. On the offensive side of the ball, 3 matchups for you as well. Now, this is position groups, but the Titans wide receivers against the Arizona Cardinals cornerback. So after the retirement of Malcolm Butler, you have Luke Barku, you have rookies Tay Gowan, you have Byron Murphy, who's pretty good, and then you have Robert Alford, who hasn't played in like 2 years if you take the COVID opt-out and injury in 2019. So a cornerback starting who hasn't really played in 2 years. 2 rookies, Tay Gowan, Marco Wilson, Luke Barku, whoever that is, and then Byron Murphy's probably going to be in the slot, which means the outside receivers for the Titans should be able to feast on this cornerback group. And who's probably going to play the outside wide receiver for the Titans? Oh, that's right. A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. So even if they put Byron Murphy on one of those guys and leave Byron Murphy on the outside, the other wide receiver is going to eat. And guys, that's why everyone is so excited about the matchup of Julio and A.J. Brown together. That's why it's so tantalizing. Because if you put your best corner on one, that means one of the best wide receivers in the NFL get your second cornerback. And when your second cornerback and third cornerback are as bad as the Cardinals are, the Titans have to go there. Also, do want to mention, shout out Teresa Walker, Mother Teresa, who covers the Titans for the Associated Press. She put this up on Wednesday. Julio Jones is one of 11 wide receivers in NFL history to have over 1,000 yards in week one of the season. So I am expecting a monster Julio Jones game on Sunday. You heard it here first. Moving forward, the Tennessee Titans offensive tackles against the pass rushers of the Arizona Cardinals. Taylor Lewan coming back from his ACL tear. How is he going to be feeling in his first live game action? On the other side, looks like I was right about this. A couple weeks ago, I tried to let you guys know that David Quessenberry is going to start at right tackle for the Titans, and that is, in fact, exactly what is happening. Can Quessenberry hold up against the tandem of J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones? It's going to be very interesting to watch, and I'll also throw tight end Jeff Swaim in this mix. It's time to play the Swaim, folks. Jeff Swaim is going to have to help out David Quessenberry with either of these pass rushes. It's just going to be absolutely necessary. The Titans cannot have the Cardinals pass rush totally disrupt what they're trying to do on Sunday. It's something that goes back to my key on offense that I talked about at the beginning of the show. And then the final matchup, Ryan Tannehill against the young inside linebackers of the Arizona Cardinals. No secret here, the Titans like to use the play action fake and then throw the ball over the middle of the field. Well, who is supposed to stop the middle of the field traffic? Those young inside linebackers, second-year player Isaiah Simmons. And while he struggled last year, he was one of the best coverage linebackers in the NFL, posting a 69.9 Pro Football Focus grade in coverage with a minimum of 206 snaps. So Simmons is pretty good against pass coverage. Makes sense for an uber athletic guy. The Cardinals also drafted in the first round another uber athletic inside linebacker in Zaven Collins. Ryan Tannehill is going to have to manipulate those guys, not only with the play action fake, but with his eyes, and take advantage of those young, inexperienced linebackers to create that space over the middle of the field for the Titans receiving options to do what they do best. So those are my three matchups on defense, my three matchups on offense. We're going to move forward to the extra tidbit section of today's game preview. Look at the gambling, look at the fantasy, and then look at AFC South division rivals. Cover all of that to cap off today's show. Before we get into that, though, do want to tell you guys about the best tasting protein bars in the galaxy from our friends over at BuiltBar.com. They have a ton of delicious flavors on their website right now for you to choose from. They're always rotating in some occasional limited time flavors as well. So there is something for everyone. And the bars don't just taste great, they're healthy for you as well. Low calorie, low sugar, high protein, high fiber. Make sure that you go to BuiltBar.com right now. Use promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your next order. Once again, that's promo code LOCKED15 at BuiltBar.com. Also, have to tell you guys about runyourpool.com. Football season is back. Let's make the most of it with a better way to create your custom pool at runyourpool.com, the premier sports pool hosting service. Run Your Pool makes it ridiculously easy to run a football pool with friends, family, or office mates. They offer dozens of formats, including Survivor, Pick'em, Squares, Margins, 33, and much, much more. Run Your Pool hosts formats for NFL and college football. There's 1 week games, full season, just the playoffs, or just the Super Bowl. Unlike other fantasy sports platforms, Run Your Pool has options and settings to make it your own. You can even brand your pool for your business, your bar, or your restaurant. Reconnect with your friends and join nearly 2 million football fans to make every game action-packed this season. Check them out today and get $10 off at runyourpool.com/lockedon or use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. Anywhere everywhere in the world. Run Your Pool helps friends and colleagues compete. The NFL season starts on September the 9th. That was yesterday. So start today at runyourpool.com/locked on and have your pool up and running in minutes. That's runyourpool.com/locked on. Titans fans, let's cap off this Football Friday game preview with some extra fun here at the end. And we're going to dive into the gambling aspect of this game in a segment I like to call Keeping It Plus 100. So right now, as things stand, as I'm recording on Thursday evening, the Titans are currently 3-point favorites in this game. Now, in Vegas, typically a 3-point favorite just means you have home field advantage. It means the teams are relatively even and you have home field, so you get those 3 points. I think it should be a little more than that. I think the Titans should be about 4-point favorites in this game. I do think that they are a better football team than the Arizona Cardinals. So if you're looking to have some fun at betonline.ag, I would consider placing a bet on the Titans -3. I do think they win by more than 3. The over-under in this game is 52, and I also think that goes over. And the way that I see things, I think the Titans ultimately do win this game 34-28. So if it were me, I would place my money on the Titans -3 and the over 52. Now, one thing that I would consider is if you are going to go on betonline.ag, consider a teaser, a 6-point teaser. Tease the Titans up to +3. Now you're getting points as a home team. I would tease the over-under down to 46 and then go over there. I think that is a stone cold lock. So that's my advice in keeping it plus 100. Now, let's move in to the fantasy conversation in my beautiful, dark, twisted fantasy preview. So if you're looking at season long, if you're looking at daily, I don't really see much of a difference here. Ryan Tannehill is a great value in daily fantasy, and I also think that Ryan Tannehill could be a good starter in season long. You are absolutely throwing Derrick Henry out there. You're absolutely throwing A.J. Brown out there. Now, I know there's some debate on Julio Jones, but as I said earlier in the episode, I personally think you're going to see a great Julio Jones game. He always plays well in week one. And I think that the Cardinals are going to put their best, it's hard to say best, but their best cornerback on A.J. Brown. So Julio Jones should eat. Now, one thing I will say is I do not think that you should consider a Tennessee Titans tight end, whether it be Swaim or Firkser, probably just Firkser in reality whatsoever. Last year, Arizona was the 4th toughest team against tight ends, only giving up 6.2 fantasy points per game. So I would not look at the tight end position for the Titans in season long or in daily. But that's kind of how I see things there. And no, I'm not using the Titans defense in this game. I don't think I needed to say that, but just in case, there you go. Now, let's take a look at what the Titans have with their division rivals and what's on their slate. So, 2 of the Titans' division rivals play each other on Sunday. The Houston Texans will play the Jacksonville Jaguars. That game is in Houston, and right now, the Jacksonville Jaguars are road favorites. They are 3-point favorites. That means the Texans are getting 3 points at home. I think it's logical because the Texans have the worst roster in the league. But one thing I will say, it's been nearly 20 to 30 years since a rookie quarterback won on the road in week one. So even though the Jags look like they have a significantly better roster than the Texans, I still think that that's risky business. I'm not 100% confident on who will win that game. And one thing else I will say, although it looks like Houston is going to be the worst team in the league, are we certain that Jacksonville is going to be much better? I mean, I think Jacksonville will be better this year than some people think, but I don't feel confident about that in any way. So that's going to be an interesting game to watch. If Houston wants to get one win on the board, this may be one of their best opportunities. And upsets happen in week one. Last year, Jacksonville beat Indianapolis in week one at home in Jacksonville. So why is it impossible that that could happen again? And that was the only win Jacksonville got all year. So maybe Houston gets their one lone win of the year at home in week one against a rookie quarterback and against Jacksonville. Then this is a big game, and this game will matter going forward. The Indianapolis Colts are at home welcoming the Seattle Seahawks. The Titans have to play the Seahawks on the road, which makes it an infinitely tougher game to play there in Seattle. A very difficult matchup for the Titans there in week 2. So, what would be ideal, in my opinion, Indy is a 3-point underdog at home. That's kind of scary. But for me, what would be ideal is for Seattle to trounce Indianapolis, be high on their horse as the Titans come in for week 2. Indy takes a loss to a common opponent that both the Titans and the Colts have to play this year. I think that would be ideal. But I am a little worried about the matchup. Seattle gets a little crazy. They got a new offensive coordinator and a new play caller. They don't have the best offensive line. Indy does have a great defense playing at home. So that's going to be an interesting game to watch as well. Right now, if I had to lean on both games, I would take Jacksonville -3, and I would take Indy +3. I think that's going to be a very competitive game. So that's kind of how I see that. But finally, just to reiterate, I do think that the Titans win this game 34-28. I know we want the defense to be very much improved, but the Cardinals have a very good offense. So the Titans defense could be better this year, and it may not show in week 1 against this offense. Either way, I think the Titans are going to score more points than the Cardinals do. That is how you win football games. Duh, Tyler. But either way, you guys get what I'm saying. The Cardinals are going to have a tougher time slowing down the Titans offense than the Titans are going to have a tough time slowing down the Cardinals offense. I do think the Titans get that turnover on a tip pass, on a play by the defensive line. And I do, Siri, now is not the time. Siri is a Titans fan as well. But either way, I think that the Titans get that turnover on defense, and that allows them to have one more possession, and that one possession results in one extra touchdown. 34-28. The Titans start off the season 1-0 and beat the Arizona Cardinals. Now, got to remind you guys, like I said, I'm going to be back on Sunday night breaking everything down for you. But before that, tomorrow on Friday night, I'm going to give the YouTube crowd a special little short where I go over the Titans injury report that comes out on Friday. It'll be the last injury report that we see of the week. So I'm going to give you guys that update in a short, small video on Friday night. On Saturday, I'm going to do a Saturday special stat projection. I'm going to give my projections for the NFL season, the statistics I think that the Titans individual players will have, where I see the Titans finishing the year, who I think will be MVP, all of that. I'm going to do that as a Saturday night special. So 7 days of content this week on the Locked On Titans YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe. And then, of course, Sunday night, I will be back to recap the game. We are going to look at all of my big picture takeaways. Then we're going to do everybody's favorite segment, look at some individual performances and tighten up and tighten down. And I'll also recap everything you need to know from around the NFL, specifically in the AFC South. So can't wait for the weekend of content here on the Locked On Titans podcast. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you do stream. As I said, subscribe to the Locked On Titans YouTube page. Remember, wherever you look for the Locked On Titans podcast, you will find me there, and it will always be free. So that's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.